will know somebody at the moment who is trapped either in rented accommodation or they're in, substandard accommodation or they're in temporary accommodation because we don't have the social housing we need in this country.
Well, yes, you say you want decent homes for everybody, but you're the one that decided that Labour Lords should vote against the government's nutrient neutrality plans, which they claim would have seen 100,000 new homes built.
To get round the table to make that happen, we put an amendment down which could have delivered on the programme. The government weren't listening. We don't believe that you have to wreck our environment to deliver the homes. We can do both of those things.
When was the last time you heard a politician actually answer a direct question? Katie Hopkins just forced Angela Rayner into a corner on national television, demanding accountability for Labour's empty promises to working-class voters. The confrontation revealed something far more troubling than just political spin. As Rayner stumbled through rehearsed talking points, Hopkins systematically dismantled the carefully constructed image of a party that claims to represent ordinary people while its leaders live lives detached from the reality of soaring energy bills and housing costs. What happens when a politician who claims to be straight-talking...
Inflation is about to hit 6%. That's the highest rate since the early 90s, when the Conservatives have been in power for over a decade. That fears about inflation were unfounded. But working people across the country are starting the new year facing rising bills and ballooning prices. So how did he get it so wrong? Millions of British workers now face a further pay cut, and his Chancellor is handing them a tax hike.
Suddenly can't give a straight answer. This contradiction sits at the heart of Angela Rayner's political persona, and Katie Hopkins recently brought it into sharp focus during a revealing confrontation. Rayner has spent years carefully constructing an image as Labour's authentic working-class voice. Her distinct personal style, complete with bold fashion choices and a Manchester accent that stands in stark contrast to the polished tones of many Westminster politicians, has become her calling card. She's positioned herself as someone different, someone who understands the struggles of ordinary Britons because she's lived them. But Hopkins' recent exchange with Rayner exposed troubling gaps between this carefully crafted image and political reality. When directly challenged about Labour's specific plans to address the skyrocketing energy bills crushing working families, Rayner's famous straight-talking attitude mysteriously vanished. Instead of concrete solutions, viewers witnessed an uncomfortable retreat into pre-rehearsed party talking points and vague promises of future plans.
Well, one of the challenges we face because of the Conservatives crash the economy and the situation we're going to inherit is that we won't be able to reverse everything that the Conservatives have done over the last 13 years. The house building that I'm proposing at the start of conference that we'll be announcing more this week is about actually giving people secure futures and making sure that we can tackle things like child poverty. But we've had 13 years of Conservative failure, a crashed economy, so we're going to inherit a very difficult programme if we were lucky enough to win the next general election, and therefore we're realistic about what we're able to achieve, but we will change Britain for the better.
She couldn't answer a single direct question about how Labour would actually help people pay their bills, Hopkins pointed out after the interview. For someone who claims to be the voice of working people, she seemed remarkably uncomfortable discussing their actual struggles. This pattern becomes even more concerning when examining Rayner's media strategy. A deeper look reveals that her public appearances follow a carefully choreographed formula: friendly interviewers, pre-approved questions, and environments where challenging follow-ups are conspicuously absent. The politician, who proudly touts her authenticity, paradoxically avoids any situation where that authenticity might be truly tested. Hopkins didn't stop at questioning Rayner's policy substance. She went further, suggesting that Rayner's distinctive appearance, what Hopkins bluntly described as her massive ginger hair, functions as a deliberate distraction technique. While such personal comments may seem harsh, they point to a broader critique about style over substance in modern politics. Has Rayner's memorable aesthetic become a smokescreen? drawing attention away from her inability to address substantive policy questions. The contradiction becomes increasingly difficult to ignore. While positioning herself as a champion for struggling families, Rayner operates in a political bubble, insulated from the hard questions those same families desperately need answered. When pressed about housing affordability, another crisis gripping working-class communities, Rayner again deflected to general criticisms of the current government, rather than outlining Labour's alternative approach. This calculated performance raises profound questions about authenticity in our political discourse. What does it mean when politicians craft working-class personas while simultaneously avoiding accountability to those communities? Is Rayner's reluctance to engage with specific questions about living costs an indication that Labour lacks genuine solutions to offer? The theatre of politics has always involved image-making, but the gap between Rayner's carefully constructed persona and her policy evasiveness represents something more troubling. It suggests a political strategy built around identity rather than ideas, personality rather than plans. For voters struggling with impossible choices between heating and eating, such performance politics offers little comfort. Hopkins's confrontation with Rayner forces us to consider a difficult possibility: that behind the bold hair, regional accent, and working-class backstory lies a politician no different from those she criticizes, one who has mastered the appearance of authenticity without the substance to back it up. The real revelation isn't simply that Rayner dodged difficult questions, it's that her entire political identity may be built around avoiding them. When pressed on rising energy costs, Hopkins noted that Rayner's response was all performance, no plan. This observation cuts to the heart of the issue. Has Labour's deputy leader become so focused on maintaining her carefully crafted image that she's forgotten, or perhaps never really cared about, delivering meaningful change for the people she claims to represent? What we're witnessing here is nothing less than the collapse of political authenticity in real time. While Rayner and her Labour colleagues perfect their working-class impressions, Britain faces a genuine cost of living emergency. Energy bills are skyrocketing beyond what many families can manage, with basic necessities becoming luxury items for those Labour claims to champion. The public isn't blind to this charade. Recent polling confirms what Hopkins boldly exposed. Trust in Labour leadership is rapidly declining as voters recognise the fundamental disconnect between the party and working-class reality. The carefully choreographed performances might win applause in Westminster circles, but they offer little comfort to families choosing between heating and eating. This confrontation matters because it strips away the carefully crafted veneer. The British public deserves more than politicians who master the language of compassion while offering no substantive solutions. The ultimate question isn't whether Hopkins was too harsh, but whether voters will continue accepting empty performances while their real concerns remain unaddressed.